I don't know why we don't. We need to have that on solid state.
We need solid state? What's that?
Should be in solid state. I don't know why.
We'll figure it out.
Figure
Hey,
it out.
everybody, I'm Shane.
I'm Lex. Hey, speaking of shot glasses, you remember when we used to have the AA on the shot glass?
Yes.
So anyway, we had a little discussion.
Admin arsenal, but like that might be offensive to people who are in
Alcoholics
AA.
Anonymous, yeah.
It's actually Lex's 1-year chip.
It's my
It's a 1-year shot.
my one-year shot glass. I've had a shot every day.
They give
for
shot
a
glasses
year.
instead now.
That's fantastic. Hey, we've got PDQ Inventory 10 has been released.
Good stuff, guys.
Yep, we're going to talk about a couple of great features, and we actually have Kris here as well to cover PowerShell in the remote command. The first, and then actually the remote command is going to change even more in version 11, make it even more powerful. But that thing hasn't been updated forever. It works.
All I can say, Kris, if you do anything with a corgi on this, like remote command, I'm going to punch you right in the face.
Once again,
Kris, you're getting punched.
He's getting punched. Great. Okay.
those of you who have the enterprise license, which are most of you. If you use the collection library, you now have the ability to hide the collection.
Yeah.
So
actually, hit F1. Let's show them.
yeah, let's say, so hit F1, or you can obviously click there and just say what's new, right? So yeah, if you want to, go ahead. You're driving.
I'm driving. RTFM, everybody. Read the.
So we're gonna
manual.
we're not gonna go through every single bullet point here, but we will. I wanted if you look at the what's new. We made a change in 10 that was also made in the previous release of deploy, and that is we've separated the console user and the background service. This could come back and haunt some of you, so I want to just really quickly call it out before we go into the collections. For those of you who have, I'm going to go to preferences. In the background service. So those of you who log in, you have your admin account, and that admin account is the same one that runs the background service. So in your credentials, you would just have the one. If you just have the one set of credentials, this will not affect you. This will affect you if you use like a service account or something to run the background service, and it's different from the account you use to run the console. Anything that's the background service, any account that's the background service. By default, if you can see right there, the background service user, in this case it's Quintana, already has access to the console. If you have a different user account for the console than your background service, you need to add it here. And it's very simple. It's just adding it. If it's a domain account, you type in the name. And the password is not the password of the account you're adding. The password is the password of the background service. We're doing this because, number one, this is going to really help some future features that we want to add.
Yeah.
This is necessary, but a great benefit here. We've had people saying, I've got somebody who has local admin access to my console, and because they're a local administrator, they have access to deploy or scan or do whatever they want because they can access the console.
Basically, a security feature at this point.
Not anymore. So you can specify the user accounts that you want to add for the console. This is also important if you use the command line interface for PDQ Inventory or PDQ Deploy, that the account that uses that is added here as a console.
Yep.
So if I wanted to add Trixie, the account Trixie, do that. Once again, I'm not entering Trixie's password. I'm entering
the console.
Correct. I'm gonna be entering the console. If I can remember what it is.
Password 1. Is that just the number 1? Yeah, I just shortened it the other day. All passwords are now the number 1.
A.
Right.
Just A.
So there you go. Now Trixie can access this. All right. So that's just want to call that out to you. Very important. Once again, if you use the command line, maybe you have some type of fog or MDT, some type of imaging service that you then run from that machine. You then run some
script off.
Some CLI commands from PDQ Inventory or PDQ Deploy. That account that you use there needs to be added here. All right. Calling that out. So let's talk about hiding collections. We are going to start adding more collections to the collection library. One of the reasons that we've held back on doing this is just because we haven't wanted to clutter this up so much.
It just starts growing. So now with the ability to hide them, we can add tons of them. And the ones you don't want, get rid of them.
Yep. So let's just take a little gander here.
Gander.
Once again, dude, I can say whatever I want. You saw Coldplay. I can say whatever I want, and I get a pass.
We took a gander.
You get a pass? It's a pass? Because I saw Coldplay.
I could wear a tutu and do a little
He gets a
dance,
pass
and I'm
for it?
still more manly. Anyway.
Really? And what you're drinking right now, huh?
All right, we're going to have a drink off right here.
No.
I'm going to go to the...
Sorry.
There's a couple of ways you can hide collections.
Yeah.
I'm going to... Do we have anything? Yeah, nothing's hidden right now. You can go to the collection library node. By the way, if you want, there used to be a link here for this. If you want to sync up with, to make sure if there's any new
latest
variables,
collections,
latest collections or latest updates to the versions, you can always click Sync Now. This happens every 2 hours, however, the automatic syncing. Every 2 hours, the background service is running.
Goes up, checks some of this.
Also, every time you open up PDQ Inventory, it will do a sync, and then hitting refresh, just F5 will do it. But that's how you can do that, by hitting sync. That just goes out to our servers and says, hey, are there any new updates? Let's say that I don't want to show
Java
development,
again.
the Java development kit, JDK. I could, now there's also some sub collections down here. If I go to this top level collection, Java, and just say hide it, and you're going to see it gets grayed out there. And also, it's just been removed over here. Notice there's no longer that arrow for expanding. I can go to the hidden tab, and I can see those that are hidden. Right? If I ever want to unhide it, I can do it from here, from the hidden, or I can just come back over here to the grayed out one and just say uncheck that hide.
There you go.
And you'll see it get.
So you go top level, you want to hide everything, just go to the top level and puts everything back for you.
Yep. You can also do that over here. Say hide that. We'll just hide a couple of them. That's under, if you do it from the actual tree, it's under, in the context menu, the right click menu, it's under the view sub menu, and then you can say hide library collections. And just come on down. Maybe if you go into imaging and you say, well, we use GIMP, but we don't really use Greenshot. Now we'll just hide that one. Go to view. Thanks. And then you can even go deeper down. Maybe I don't care about paint.net that's not installed, but I do care about those that are installed or are old. So we'll just come over here to view. You get the idea.
Yeah.
So it's out of sight, out of mind on the tree. Once again, if you want to see what's out there, there are two things you can do. If you remember, click that node. You can see the grayed out. I'm not sure if you can quite pick that out. The grayed out collections there, and you can see imaging has kind of grayed out a little bit, but there could be something under there that's shown. And of course, you can just go to the hidden tab.
And it just shows you what has been
And it will show you, it'll show you everything that's hidden. Now, if you want to view these in the tree just temporarily, you don't have to go and hide everything. You can come over, to the collection library and just say, display the hidden library collections. And then by doing that, the hidden ones will be shown, but they will be grayed out. And that's just so that you can, maybe calibrate a little bit. Oh, I didn't intend to hide Greenshot or something like that. And then, of course, you can just go back and say, uncheck that display. And that will hide them. So, go through the collection library, clean out hide those things that you don't want to see. We are going to be adding more more collections to this, so you probably don't want to stay on top of it, because obviously we're trying to take popular applications, even though they're popular doesn't mean that you will use them. And if you don't want to see them, out of sight, out of mind, hide that clutter. All right, Kris, how do you feel about talking about PowerShell, bro?
I love
PowerShell. All right,
don't whisper, man.
Yeah, come on over.
You have to whisper seductively about PowerShell.
You have to whisper seductively about PowerShell? No.
We're going to talk about remote command. Those of you who have not used remote command, I'm going to let you drive.
Here, I'm getting out the way.
Sweet.
Chris?
Yeah,
Come by.
Buddy.
Come by.
Give me my whiskey. I'm not going to sit through your PowerShell corgi crap without having some type of savior. All right, so if those of you who haven't used remote commands before, even before the PowerShell, wow. You're a sysadmin, use remote commands. It's fantastic. Those of you who have, we're going to show you some extra muscle.
Yes.
Ironically, the extra muscle is going to be shown by Kris, that has none.
I worked by corgis. So
Go ahead.
the strength of whatever. Okay.
He deadlifts corgis, which is the reason for his lack of muscles.
They have short legs, so it's hard to grab. Anyway. we made some improvements to the remote command window, which, as you probably guessed, include PowerShell. So I'm just going to find some machine that I can play with. Here's a couple that I actually use quite often. And then I'm just going to come up to Tools and go to the remote command. And this has changed slightly so that you can choose whether you want to actually run a regular, like a command prompt command, like from a batch file, the same thing you might be familiar with, or PowerShell. In this case, PowerShell is selected already because it's awesome.
Because the last one we ran was PowerShell. It remembers the previous command type that you use.
Yes. And so here you can actually type PowerShell directly on these machines. Any PowerShell that you can type here. For example, just something really basic, you can type get child. Whoop, I added a couple dashes there. Get child item, just to kind of like the equivalent of the dir command, directly listening command, and just the regular command prompt. And if I run that, you will see the output. And while I load up, let me go search for something real quick.
Yeah. It's important to remember, even with PowerShell, just like with the remote command when you're using the CMD, anything that you run has to be silent. It's not going to display a window on the target computer.
Yeah.
So if it requires any type of prompts or user interaction, it's not going to work. This is for you to run scripts. This is for you to run commands. That don't require user interaction. Just want to throw that out there.
Yep. Here we go. Here we have the results of running that. You can see it's running under the Admin Arsenal PDQ Inventory remote command location that when we create the service on the target machine. And you can see the results of that.
Move this window up a little bit.
Okay, where are we going? Okay. And so you can see the results, and you can even concatenate the results of multiple computers by selecting multiple computers. You may want to add an extra, line break to make it a little more readable, but you can see both of them. So I have a couple commands that I've just come up with this morning to kind of give an example of some useful one-liners in PowerShell if you're familiar with them. So one that I've often used in the past has to do with checking when machines were rebooted and by whom.
Okay.
So there's just this one-liner. I don't expect anybody to memorize this from this.
You grab that top line too as well.
Oh, I did. How embarrassing. So we'll get that.
By the way, if you do want this, if you want, mention in the chat window if you're on the chat if you would like any of these commands to be made available afterwards, and Kelly will do that.
Yeah. So just quick overview. We're not doing a PowerShell lesson here. I'm just going to show you. We're just getting an event log from the system event log, looking for a particular event ID, and we're just going to run this on those machines. We're going to look for.
You are such a nerd, Kris.
I am a nerd. I love it. It's great because you can find out who rebooted machines and start pointing fingers, because that's fun. So you can see that Wolverine, none, probably since the event log's probably been cleared recently.
Okay.
But Xavier had a few here. You can actually see that it lists usernames and who did it and when.
Okay.
Since it hasn't been cleared. So I think that's very useful, especially when you're trying to hunt down why a machine rebooted, intentional or not.
And let's just show them the command history.
Yep. Pull up the command history, and this actually saves some of the information from each of the command types, as well as some of the settings that you have, as you can see here. Timeout, the success codes if you have any, and the commands.
Yeah.
So it's pretty straightforward, I think.
I think so. And then, of course, if you want to go back and just run a regular command, you just click on your command, clear that out. We're still going to be running this command. Just go ahead and, yeah, that's fine. Running it against Wolverine and Xavier.
I'm very creative with my commands.
If you have not used remote command, I really hope that you give it a go. It's very useful. I mean, just something as simple as, oh wow, I have to hurry just for temporarily add a user account to a local administrator or something. You can use net local group. There's just so many cool commands that you use as a sysadmin throughout the day.
Do it here, and also this guy right here.
Yeah, we've also added the wake on LAN ability. This was existed as a separate, control. I think a Control W, or you could attach wake on LAN to your inventory scans to wake up computers that were off. Now we also have that in remote command. So if you want to, if Wolverine or Xavier are off and they are configured properly to handle wake on LAN, then you can just check that and it'll go forward. You're going to see some big changes coming up in Inventory 11 as well on the remote command. Right? Yes.
Yep, we got some good stuff coming.
Do you have anything you want to say?
Oh no, I'm just for the most part we can make these one-liners that I have available. I have a few more. They're just a similar vein of thought. But
Go ahead and run one.
sweet, let's do it. Okay, this is a fun one. I define my PowerShell one-liners as fun.
Get the IPv4 settings. Is that what this is?
IP4 information, yeah. So we're using the Get Sim instance here. You can use Get WMyObject. That's just been superseded by the Sim classes. In PowerShell, those are now available in PowerShell 3 and higher, I believe. I forget exactly, but those are faster than the Get WMyObject commandlet. So here we're just getting network adapter information where it is enabled, and then I'm actually using a calculated property to say I only want to use this address family, which essentially means use IPv4, because I don't care about IPv6 at this point. So I'll run that, and you can actually see kind of a printout of what the settings are. You can clean it up as where you want, but it's pretty cool. So I might have to widen this a little bit to see it a little bit better, since there's a lot of properties that were selected.
Right.
But how's that?
Yeah, bring this over a little bit. I think you guys get the idea.
Yeah. I think you can actually see at a glance, oh, there's the host name, there's the MAC address, and all this fun information about it. And especially if you're doing this on a bunch of machines, you can select them all, concatenate the output here in this window, and say, oh my goodness, look at all that information. It's helpful.
Okay, so obviously your target computers have to have PowerShell. We really, really recommend that you have PowerShell 3 or higher. We hope you have PowerShell 5 or higher. Chris, what options do they have if they don't have the latest PowerShell on their machines?
Go get it. We have it in a package library. We have PowerShell 5, or we have the WMF5 package in our package library. Get it. It can be installed on most systems. There's a few exceptions if you have Exchange Server installed, or if you have there's certain server applications that don't do well beyond a certain point. So if you have Exchange Server 2013, I don't think it does well with PowerShell 5. But that aside,
what we actually did with the PowerShell packages, there you see PowerShell WMF, and there's the PowerShell WMF with reboot.
Yeah.
If you install this PowerShell 5, it will require a reboot. If you don't reboot, that's fine, but you will not be able to utilize PowerShell 5 until the next reboot. So we do have that option there as well. But I'll grab the one with the reboot. By the way, we made this particular package to not deploy to servers. You could change that if you want. Our thought was, it's a pretty big change, and you're probably going to want to do this manually on your servers. If you do want to install this on your servers, you can simply come into the PowerShell package, and you'll see we have PowerShell Win 7 32, Win 7 64. These will also work on their server counterpart, which is for Windows 7 is 2008 R2, and Windows 8.1 would be 2012 R2. All you'd have to do is say, come into Conditions, OS version, and change that to 2012 R2 as well. Just click that, and that would work. But we just turned that off by default, just so that we didn't want to screw up some Exchange server or something.
Bad. You can see those if you go actually to the WMF download site on Microsoft's website. They actually have a list of times when you don't want to install, which include when you have Exchange Server installed. So if you have any hesitation, check that out. It's
absolutely
easy to find.
But this is one of our more popular packages as of late, because people are, hey, this is fantastic, I can get all my machines up. And then how can you tell at a glance, I want to know what machines have what version of PowerShell they have.
That's great.
In inventory, well, we were just running against Wolverine. Let's open up Wolverine in the computer window. Scroll on down, you'll see the PowerShell version right there.
Yep. We also have default collections for PowerShell versions for the last couple major releases of inventory.
I always forget how to do that, JJ.
Windows key and then touch the monitor.
Windows key and touch the monitor.
Yeah.
I'll remember that one.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's how you can also pull up. Yes, you mentioned the collections. We do have the PowerShell collections right there.
Yep.
These are the machines that have PowerShell 5. PowerShell 4, etc. So you can deploy that out to those machines.
Yep.
Right.
Side note, with PowerShell 1, we don't really support a lot of commands being sent to them because of how different it is from the newer versions of PowerShell. If you're on PowerShell 1, upgrade if you can. I know some of them you can't. There's certain limitations. For example, Windows Vista. If you're on Vista, you've got bigger problems. But if you need to upgrade PowerShell, you can at least go to PowerShell 2. Can't go higher. But if you deploy to a PowerShell 2, you actually will get a warning both in PDQ deploy when you deploy a PowerShell script or command from a PowerShell step, or if you do a remote PowerShell command, it'll actually have this big blob of text show up that says, warning, just so you know, you're on PowerShell 2. Here's what you can do. We have a package. Here's links. Here's all this information. We're trying to tell you to get newer versions of PowerShell because it's better. There's been security fixes. It's safer. You should really consider it strongly.
So use that package in the package library if you feel so inclined, or if you're feeling more adventurous, go ahead and build your own.
Yeah.
But get it out there, folks. All right, get out of here. Thanks, Kris.
Yes.
All right,
Surprised Kris didn't grab a bottle on the way out.
Lex has been
That's
over
what I
there
would have done.
swallowing his shame.
Guys want to answer some questions?
Let's hit some questions.
do it.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Thanks, Kris.
Question 1: how do I get to be as cool as Lex?
Sorry, that
Nuts and
threw me
berries.
there a little
Be
bit.
born.
Be born.
First question, real question from Dakir B. In PDQ Inventory Preferences, if I had set 100 concurrent scans, are offline sending wake computers included within those 100 concurrent?
Good question. Very great question. All right, so in old versions of inventory, yes. What he's talking about, by the way, I'm going to go to preferences in inventory. And the same kind of holds true in your concurrent deployments in PDQ deploy. So the scans and deployments are kind of the same.
Go to performance.
So in the performance, the concurrent scans, I've got this set to 64. I think the default is 32. Number one, you don't want to go too high. But we're going to use Dakir's example of 100, which is probably fine. He's saying I do 100. But it hits 100. I try to scan 300 machines, and the first 100 it grabs are
Some of those are
broken up.
Yeah.
Okay, so they go into the queue immediately. Once we determine that a wake on LAN it's offline and a wake on LAN is needed, we will kick off that wake on LAN and then put it into a separate queue and grab the next one for that 100. That separate queue that's for the wake on LAN, those have the highest priority to go back into the 100 pool, just so you know. Yeah, in older versions, I think we changed it in inventory 3 or 4.
Yeah.
That wake on LAN you would try to send a wake up to that machine, and we wait 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes. If we detect that it comes online before that, then we kick off the instructions, whether it's a scan or deployment. That would take up that concurrent
One of the seats
scan.
there, yeah.
So now we do move that over, but it is a place in a higher priority to get back into that pool. So I hope that answers your question, Dakir. If you notice some behavior that's not jiving with that, then please send us.
Shoot us a line. Yep.
Send us a line, because that would be called a bug.
Is that what that's called?
It would be called a bug.
What else you got, Kelly?
Next question from Dougie Doug K. What is the best way to ensure all workstations are showing the correct state? We have several that will show as offline, but we know they are online. Sending wake command shows online.
Well, we discussed this just briefly, just for those of you who were on the chat session and watched the pre-show. We answered this a little bit before, so bear with us. But really what it comes down to, there's a number of things. You're going to want to make sure you have, going to go back into preferences here. Under network, obviously you want your auto heartbeat enabled.
Important thing about your auto heartbeat is a sweet spot, okay? I mean, if you got 10,000 machines and you're scanning every 120 seconds, you'll be pinging all day.
Yeah.
Never stop. So, find that sweet spot for your heartbeat. And then on top of that, your DNS. If you've got machines, laptops that go from wired to wireless, a lot of times you're going to have 2 entries in your DNS. So testing multiple addresses in name resolution.
That's this option right here.
Yeah.
So if you're seeing this problem, Doug, make sure to have that checked. And as far as what's the correct number, what you want to do is just do the calculations. You want to make sure that the total number of computers in your environment will be able to be pinged in whatever your interval is.
Yeah.
And I believe, oh my goodness, I think it's now 48. We grab 40, I believe it's 48 computers at a time for pinging.
That's just kind of random.
I believe it's 48. It used to be 24, and I think it went to 36. I have to ask Adam. Anyway, I think it's 48. We grab 48 computers and we send a ping out. Now the ping, we give a 2-second return, basically a time to live. We give 2 seconds to get that return back from them. If the computer doesn't respond within 2 seconds, we mark it as offline. This could be a problem if you have very, very slow
network response.
Your latency. Your network latency is fairly slow, and 2 seconds is a lifetime when it comes to an echo request, just so you know. But just do that math. You 48 computers at a time, up to 2 seconds. It usually takes a lot less than that. If you can't get all of those in 300 seconds because you have 9,000 computers, do the math and bump that up to like 750 seconds or something like that for your interval. But that's probably the best thing you can do. Also, just regular DNS maintenance.
Clean, yeah.
Make sure you have scavenging set up and that the scavenging corresponds to the lease time of your DHCP server, or your DHCP leases. That's fairly important.
We've got a video out on that to take you through cleaning up your DNS.
Yeah. So. Hopefully that will take care of that problem for you, Doug, or at least that will take a huge chunk out of it. If you continue to run into issues, by all means, throw us a line.
Yeah.
Do we have another question? Otherwise, I'm going to go into another feature. All right. Oh.
Christopher Walken is back, by the way. Big fan of the show. Dear Shane and Lex, is there a way to refresh collections without having to click on each one to see the correct number of items in the collection?
Yes. So Kris, what he's talking about, notice how we show the number of objects. Scroll. There we go.
Here, watch this. Check it out.
We're too far in.
Oh, wrong button. Here we go. Now watch. Right there, everybody. See it?
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, now I don't know how to
Leave it
get it to go away.
Could someone
There it is. Woo. Fire me?
Okay, so you're saying you notice that when you click on a collection, all of a sudden that number updates. That number will get updated even if you don't click on it, but it won't get updated right away. It is placed in a lower priority queue to do this. It will get updated. We test this constantly. But what happens, the way we do the background refreshes, Kris, the way we do the background refreshes is when you click on a collection, that places that right to the front of the queue to do a quick evaluation. Also, it's not just clicking on it. Anytime that is referenced, so let's say that you have a deployment schedule. I'm just going to go test deployment here. I'm just going to do a quick schedule to show you. I choose my targets in this schedule. I choose my targets by linking to a collection. Notice link, not selecting targets. Yeah. But I link to a collection and I say I want to just go to the collection library, applications, imaging, GIMP, basically GIMP old. Mm-hmm. Anything that's old, maybe we'll pretend this collector or this schedule is going to push out the latest GIMP. To anything that's GIMP old, and it kicks off, once a day or whatever you specify. Whenever that kicks off, it references that collection. That collection gets placed in the front of the queue.
It's
so
refreshed.
we have tested this ad nauseum, where we've updated a version, and the collection this collection for old says there's 24 computers, but really there's 36. We hurry and make the change, and then we deploy a schedule out to it. You will see that collection update right then. Mm-hmm. Anytime that collection is referenced, it gets placed at the front of the queue. Now you can also, if you want to test this out, just not touch it. You might have to wait a minute or two. You will see those numbers update, refresh, even if you don't reference that collection. So we do have people that are constantly watching that. Customers say, "Hey, it seems like it only updates when I select on it. Please give it some more time." And sometimes you might have to wait a minute or two, but you will see that number update.
Sysadmins impatience?
Mm-hmm.
No.
All right, so the next feature, and thank you, that's a great question. And by the way, anything in the collection library automatically does have a lower priority than your custom collections. Yeah. Just so you know, just because if you've taken the time to build a custom collection, we figure that's something that you're very interested in. So it has a slightly higher priority than the collection library, which has the lowest. I want to call out another feature. If you recall, in the the release notes, which I think is actually still up over here. There we go. Update notes. The program publisher and version have been added to the hotfix. So I'm just going to head off these questions right away. I'm going to go to Abraham, which is a Windows 7. I'm going to go to the hotfixes. I'm going to make this window a little wider, JJ. So zoom out a little bit. You'll notice a couple of new collections here, or columns. For the most part, Adobe takes care of this, but like Microsoft, for the most part, you're not going to see in Windows 7 and earlier anything in there. This is primarily for Windows 8, 8.1, and 10, where the program, the version, and the publisher of that hotfix can be populated. So with Microsoft, for the most part, you're not going to see anything in there. Adobe does take care of that. Basically, I want to go to a Windows 10.
Fiddlestick. Brewster?
Yeah, Brewster. Brewster's isn't, well, we'll find out.
He's the latest. And the...
Yeah, Brewster doesn't have anything, because Brewster's the only doesn't have anything. That's a bad one.
It's not Brewster's Millions.
Fiddlestick.
I'm going to go to Hammer Time.
Hammer Time, there you go.
So in Hammer Time, there's not much in there. Anyway, you're going to have 8.1 or 10, but we wanted to add that because we did notice that those columns now exist.
And they're getting populated.
And sometimes they're populated, so we wanted you to have that information. But you're going to see a lot of blanks in there. That's just because that information that's going to be populated, it's up to the hotfix vendor to publish that. If they publish it in those fields, we will grab that and display it for you. All right. Do we have any more questions?
Parting questions, Renee?
Let's go and wrap it up.
All right. Hey, everybody, thanks for watching. Yeah, come on over here, Kris. Kris, you are a PowerShell god. Thank you for everything
that is
you
true,
do, man. Seriously. And you guys check in. I'm not sure what it's going to be next week. I'll find out the day before, I guess. But check in next week. We'll figure it out.
20 minutes before is usually when we read the notes. So
That sounds good.
All
Good
right.
luck on, everybody.
See y'all later.
Ciao.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Big congratulations going out to Kris W. and Doug K., winners of PDQ swag. Send us an email at webcast@adminarsenal.com. We'll get that sent out to you. If you have any additional questions, feel free to hit up our support forums. That's why we have them. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you back here next time.